Joan Rivers said about age, "It's the one mountain you can't overcome, so you might as well embrace it, deal with it, and live your best life moving forward." So, how do we do that? Hello, my name is Pam Gross, and today we are going to talk about how all of us can have a good quality of life as we get older. In our younger years, our hormones are in perfect balance and we feel great. Unfortunately, as we get older, our hormones get out of balance and our quality of life diminishes. Remember, this doesn't just affect women. Men also experience life and aging changes. I think all of us desire optimal health, and we want to age gracefully. We can keep doing things the same way, or we can take a different path. There is a new way to approach your concerns, and that's what we are going to talk about today. So, let our journey begin. Let's meet Lynn Hogarty, founder and executive director of the Happy Hormone Cottage. Welcome, Lynn. Tell us your story and what is the Happy Hormone Cottage and how did it start?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. The Happy Hormone Cottage started in 2009. Actually, the seed of it began in 2004 when I had a radical hysterectomy. I had a fibroid tumor that I named Bob. And, 2 pounds is pretty large, right? And fibroid tumors are not cancerous. They're just annoying as heck. And it was in my uterus. I was teaching inner city sixth grade and bleeding quite heavily, as you can imagine, not a great fit with active sixth graders. So anyway, I hung on as long as I could to the end of the school year and went in to have surgery, radical hysterectomy. Right before surgery, my wonderful OBGYN, whom I loved, said, "Okay, Lynn, ovaries in or ovaries out." And I did not know then, in 2004, that ovaries are little hormone factories. I mean, how no one was talking about it. How would I have known that? But Gilda Radner had just died. You remember Gilda Radner? SNL? She had just died of ovarian cancer, and they called it the silent killer. And I'm Irish, so I either worry or drink, and I prefer to worry, frankly. So I thought, oh God, take them out, take my ovaries out. I don't want ovarian cancer. So went into surgery, came out of surgery without my ovaries and hysterectomy. And my husband, Jeff, who at that point was a pharmacist at a big box store, thought to himself, oh my God, what has happened? Because he saw all of his women coming in every month as a pharmacist for their hormone drugs. And they were all kind of, in his words, irritable and moody and cranky and kind of chubby and didn't want sex with their husbands. And he thought, oh my, he's 9 years younger than me. You can imagine the horror. He said, oh my God, not on my watch. So he flew to Houston, Texas to become a compounding pharmacist. When I went back to my doctor in 8 or 10 weeks for my little after surgery checkup, I sat there with my little 15-minute copay, and Jeff had his lab coat, Jeff RPH, and Dr. Frank had his lab coat, and he's retired now, but Dr. Frank, OBGYN, and I sat there and listened to like a tennis match, my head going back and forth, not being a part of the conversation. And at the end of the 15 minutes, Dr. Frank said to my husband, Jeff, okay, Jeff, your wife, your cause. I'll sign this prescription for compounded bioidentical hormone therapy for you. And we left on our merry way. So had Jeff not been there to advocate for me, man to man and profession to profession, I don't think I would have gotten permission to use this brand newfangled therapy in his opinion, or his mind. Jeff went back to a friend's compounding lab and whipped up my bioidentical hormone creams from plant-based powders, and I began to use these amazing creams and went back to teaching that fall. And I had energy. I didn't gain the requisite 40 pounds after surgery. I still had libido. I had vitality and energy. I mean, and I was running circles around all my teacher friends who were in their mid-30s. And I thought, oh my God, I'm onto something. And no one knows about it. So I finished teaching in 2007, my 30 years, and immersed myself in this world of hormones and decided in 2009, you know what, I'm going to open a place that women can come and talk about their story and I can educate them. Because what I've discovered and why we're popular is that hormone health is not taught in medical school. Doctors have said to me for 13 years now, Lynn, I've had 4 hours of hormone education in medical school, 4 hours. And then they might add, I've had none on nutrition and none on supplements. So if you think about that for a moment, I feel like with aging women and aging, I identify as beyond age 35, actually. When you have women who are 35 and beyond, and their beloved doctors have no real known knowledge of hormone issues, supplementation and nutrition, we're kind of a country of dis-ease in aging women. And so 2009 happened, and I was talking to women in Centerville, Ohio, and one of my friends owned a boutique, and she heard me talking. She goes, I've got this little teeny limestone building out back. I want you to look at it. You should open up this as an office and talk to women. So we went out behind her little boutique, and it was literally a limestone building built by Abraham Lincoln's cousin Nathan in the 1800s. So in the heart of Centerville, I examined it, and she said, could you work out of here and talk to women? And we examined it. There were squirrels inside. It was just limestone, really old. We opened the door. There was a little upstairs loft, and found out that Nathan Lincoln used to make coffins out of it for teeny little people, apparently, because it wasn't very big, right? And so we, to make a building like that with no electricity or running water into a business, I had to sweet talk the men in city council. Now, I don't know how city council is where you are, but it was quite interesting. And I bribed them with a lot of brownies and cookies and conversation and got the building up to code as much as I could. And August 21st of 2009, I opened up my little building. We named it the Happy Hormone Cottage. Why? You're not going to forget it, right? It's a name you're going to hate or love, but you're not going to forget it. Smart, huh? We opened up the building, and we talked to women, and women showed up, and kind of the rest is history. I mean, it just exploded. What is the Happy Hormone Cottage? It's actually a place women can come to be heard and validated, educated and empowered for their best health naturally in the arena of hormones. And it's just been an incredible journey. I mean, I didn't have a business plan. I didn't really care if I made money because I just wanted to talk to women. I come from a world of smart boards and chalk. I mean, I had a little laptop, and I put in a little light bulb with 15 watts of power. I had a little teeny air conditioner. There was no running water, no electricity, no other electricity, and no bathroom. So, I mean, we had to spend a lot of time at Panera right next door. But anyway, women just found that it resonated with them. And I filled the niche between what our doctors don't know, God love them, and the truth. And in the last 13 years, we've gone from this little teeny limestone cottage that had squirrels living in it to an actual viable business and a medical facility. So then about 2 years, I moved to a building that did, like this building here, that did have electricity, running water, and restrooms. And I brought in laptops and computers and databases and hired really smart people to do all of that. It's just been amazing. We had the demand grow so much we had to open several of the Happy Hormone Cottage locations. And so today we have our own medical facility and center, brick and mortar in Centerville, called the Integrative Hormone Center and Pharmacy, with our own on-site compounding lab, our own line of supplements, 5 nurse practitioners, a medical director, my husband, Jeff, who's a compounding pharmacist and functionally medicine trained. I mean, you couldn't have believed it when I opened. It was just unbelievable. And I think I just filled a niche. And I just grew organically and authentically because I just happened to fill a niche. So that's how it started, and that's my story. And it's just, I wrote a book called Own Your Journey because no one would have ever believed what has happened if I wouldn't have written it down, So, yeah.
One of the things you hit on was the fact that it grew so quickly and that there was such a demand for it. Because if you really think about it, I think most people, if they're given a choice, they want to understand what's happening with their body and things like that. And I think you touched upon it when you said that most of our doctors really haven't had the training in a lot of this. And so there's not a lot of discussions and true exploration of what's kind of going on. Like I said, I think most of us, given the choice, we don't really want to be what I would call pilled up.
Right.
We want to understand what's going on. And it was interesting because you did say about age 35, because everything I was reading about this, it does seem that when we hit the age of 35, that things do begin to change. And that change and that, quote, aging kind of throws us off balance.
Yeah.
And I know even for me personally, that kind of started around that age, and you start getting a little more tired and you really just kind of want to understand. So I want to backtrack because one of the things that you mentioned was bioidentical hormone. This is so easy to say. Bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Explain to me what that is.
Sure.
And then let's talk about why it's so important.
Okay.
Because one of the things that I love about your website and also about your company in general is your motto: get tested, get treated, and then get better.
Right.
So kind of walk us through all of that.
HRT, if you can kind of visualize the letters HRT in your brain, stands for hormone replacement therapy.
Okay.
And up until about 2002, when this big study came out, doctors would use these drugs masking as hormones for help women with hot flashes and brain fog and all of their complaints. Well, in 2002, a study came out that showed that these drugs weren't really doing women any favors. They were actually causing some issues like potentially cancer. So most of the prescriptions for these drugs sort of dried up. They're still prescribed today if we allow it to happen as women, but most OBGYNs simply don't use those. They just don't use those. And so women were just taken off this drug therapy and left to kind of suffer and miserable for, maybe your mother would have gone through this. It's been 20 years, but the horror stories, my mother-in-law, the horror stories of it just taken off and all of a sudden you're left out to dry.
It wasn't just my mom.
No, yeah, it was women.
It was women in general,
Yeah,
because I
right.
remember just going to my OB-GYN, who, by the way, I absolutely adore.
Absolutely.
But the truth is when I would mention things or asked him about,
Yeah.
the hormone things, quite frankly, he was rather dismissive of it.
Absolutely. And because it has been given a bad rap.
Right.
And even still today, interestingly enough, doctors who aren't in the know exactly still think of the hormone therapy as that old time school 2002 and before therapy. And that simply isn't the truth. And so that gave rise to what we call bioidentical hormone therapy, which is BHRT, which actually we make it in our company lab for the individual woman based on really great testing. But in standard of care, your OBGYN, they might just use BHRT, but it's one size fits most, and it may or may not be based on any kind of testing or blood work. Many times it's just they get a sample from their drug rep. Maybe they'll give you estradiol or a pill or a gel or a spray or a patch. You've heard the estrogen patch. Not a bad therapy. It's just often given out without any kind of testing, maybe a little blood work where you get a number, and it's always one size fits most. So we have taken that one step further, and we actually do a great testing. And I can get into this more later, but we get a 15-page report back on every woman's hormones and cortisol. Then with that information, after an hour appointment or so, the nurse practitioner and the patient will have a conversation, and we can create a recipe for each woman to replace hormones that are leaving her body because she's over 35. And at 35, what happens, to answer your question, our ovaries begin to get older. We become a high-risk pregnancy. Our ovaries just begin to make less progesterone. Our progesterone receptors in our body begin to deplete slowly. It's very sneaky. So by the time you're in your early 40s, you wake up one day and you say, oh my God, I just don't feel like myself. And I don't know what's happened to me. It's been such a slow decline. It's, like I said, it's sneaky. It began at the age of 35-ish, and now my magic number is 42. I adore 42-year-olds. Oh my God, they're hilarious. I mean, to me, they're just, I can help them so much. I get so excited to talk with them because that's their age, and they're thinking to themselves, oh my gosh, where did my life go? And so this is where they go to their doctor, and their doctor often will say, I hear it every day. Even I heard this week. I'm sorry, you're just getting older. Can you go home and walk your dog and get your mind off of it? Or it's just in your head. There's nothing we can do for you. Or they'll say, well, if you're depressed or anxious, how about an antidepressant or an SSRI like Prozac? And I'm thinking as I begin to twitch to myself, but you're not Prozac deficient. It's a hormone imbalance and no one knows about it. What we do is we want to find and fix the root cause. I'll say it again. We want to find and fix the root cause. We don't want to drug you. We don't want to give you Ambien for sleep. We don't want to give you an SSRI because we just want to actually give you the hormones that you need to help eradicate the issues and bring you back to your full joy of life again and a higher quality of life.
And I'm glad you said that about basically one size doesn't fit all.
Right.
Because I think that is kind of, at this point in time, what a lot of doctors think. The truth is that what may work for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. And that's why I think the analysis is so important, because we are all individuals. What works for one may not work for the other. So I like the idea that you mentioned, look, this isn't one size fits all.
No.
This is an individualized program. You come in, you get tested, and then you can see what isn't quite working or what isn't quite in balance. Lynn, one of the things that resonated with me was when you said that you don't feel quite like yourself, because I can speak personally. That's exactly how I felt. And in my case, it was in my mid 40s. Mm-hmm. It was literally you wake up and you look at yourself and you're like, oh my God, where did that come from? What is that? And why don't I feel like my normal? I don't feel like me.
Right.
And that was why when you said that, I was like, oh my God, I can so relate to that.
I know. And, I think that when you're in your late 30s, you think, I'll feel better tomorrow. It's just a phase. It's just a headache. It's just, I have no energy today. But it doesn't go away. It doesn't get better.
It really doesn't.
It doesn't. And so then you waste all these years of your life hoping and wishing and getting more miserable. And if we do nothing about it, today's the best day you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
You have to fix it. So, and if you go to your doctor and they offer you birth control, which is apparently the end all be all for all things known to man to cure everything apparently, or you don't want to go on the SSRIs or drugs, really we're at a loss. So that's why I'm so glad that I was able to kind of be courageous enough to open up a place that had never been heard of and just talk to women and just authentically hear their story and validate them and say that you're not crazy. It's not in your head. there is an issue. It's called aging, and it's a hormone imbalance, and here's how we can help you if you so choose. There's no pressure to continue on with us, but I like educating women. I'm an educator. So letting them know what's happening is a natural and normal part of life and how we can help them repair that. Because here's the truth. If you think back to 150 years ago, think about the show 1880, one of my favorite shows that I just finished watching a couple months ago. If at this age, women would be dead by now. I mean, they died of childbirth or pestilence or starvation or wild animal attacks. I mean, think about it. Crossing the Oregon Trail, they didn't live to be that old, right? And now we're living into our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Oh my God. You've got to have hormones to go the distance because hormones play a lot of really important jobs in your body.
And I'm glad you said that. So I do want to go back for one moment to the actual hormone therapy itself.
Sure.
Because these are artificial hormones, but they are similar, right, to natural hormones.
Well, they're actually hormones that we make from plant-based powders.
Okay, and that's what I was going to get.
Be chemically,
they're plant-based.
They're plant-based.
Okay.
They actually mimic each person's bioidentical hormones in their body they match, so that it's not going to be artificial. It's going to be all natural.
Okay.
And it mimics what your body can no longer make because you're older than 35. It's not a drug. It's an actual hormone.
Okay.
And then what happens if you go to your doctor, everyone's really familiar with estrogen. But if you use estrogen and you don't offset it with progesterone, estrogen can cause weight gain and a heightened risk of breast cancer. And women who are over 35 already have estrogen dominance and are already getting kind of chubby in those love handles. And why would you want to get that even more with unopposed estrogen? But that's what our doctors know. So our line of defense is always progesterone first. And then when we're no longer having a period because of age or surgery, then introduce estrogen and, of course, testosterone. And we look at other hormones as well. And really the cortisol today, Pam, the cortisol is amazing what cortisol can wreak havoc in our body. So if we don't check the cortisol as well, we can't repair women. And also we look at the thyroid. I want to talk about thyroid. Thyroid is, I always, when I do my little hormones one-on-one with Lynn over Zoom sessions, I have this little teeny toy car. I think it's a Camaro. It's a race car, really pretty blue Camaro. And I say, if you've got a thyroid issue, and I hold up my little car, you've got 4 flat tires, but doctors only really check one tire when they do blood work, and it's called the TSH. If you're lucky, you might also have in blood check the T4 or the free T4. But actually in a thyroid, there are 10 different types of components for thyroid, and we want to check all of them in blood, right? Women who come to us with a thyroid issue, 8 out of 10 do have a thyroid issue, by the way, statistically. We can actually get them better. We identify all the components, not just the one flat tire, but we fix all the flat tires, right? Then we can actually get them back up to full health in the thyroid arena. Here's where I'm going to introduce a new term, functional medicine. Because functional medicine, unlike allopathic medicine, we look at the body as a whole. So we understand, like a car engine, that the thyroid and the adrenal glands with cortisol and the sex hormones all work together. They all have to function together. Whereas if you go to allopathic medicine or standard of care with a thyroid issue, you'll see the thyroid doctor. If you have a gut issue, you'll see another kind of a doctor for that. If you have kidney issues, you'll see another doctor, and they're all segmented. We want to look at the body as a whole and repair it, look at it that way under a microscope. So we find that if we can fix in our arena the thyroid and the adrenal glands with cortisol and the sex hormones, we can really help women feel their best, right?
Yeah.
It all kind of works together. We don't want to fragment them out.
So it's a very holistic.
It's a holistic approach. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think what you've also kind of described is the fact that you're changing kind of the paradigm, I think, for aging. Because I think a lot of people, when they go to their doctor, it's all about the medications. And this is actually something that's much more deeper than that. You're actually finding out.
Right. And we're feeling
what's not in balance.
Yes, and
because that's
receptors.
what actually happens as we get older. Things get out of balance.
Right. They do. Right. And we refill receptors to regain that balance. So women always say in my Zoom sessions, they interrupt me, how long will it take for me to feel better? They squeal. And I'm like, hold your, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not a magic cream. And we like to use, by the way, I want to digress here for 1 second. We like to use hormone creams because it goes right into the hormone receptors as opposed to an oral medication. Mm-hmm. That's our preference. And the reason is we put them in these little plastic containers called HR tickers. You do one click at a time, and every click measures to 0.05 mLs of the hormone cream. And then like for my body, based on my testing, I need 4 clicks of my hormone cream. And so you can do the 4 clicks, but if I am having an extra ornery evening, I can increase it by a click. You can adjust dosing is what I'm saying, right? And then you come back at 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months, whatever you need to. We'll adjust dosing. You'll touch base with our nurse practitioner as needed, and then you only have to test every other year. Although our lovely 42-year-olds and people in their 40s going through perimenopause often want to test every year because their hormones are changing so quickly and they're just kind of crazed. So we want to keep up with their changing bodies. But it's not an expensive therapy over time. It kind of all evens out, right? We don't want to break the bank. We want to fix the health.
And I think that's important. By the way, I loved your analogy about the sports car and the fact that you have 4 flat tires and the doctor is actually only looking at one of the flat
that's
tires.
a 6th grade teacher in me, the visual piece. Yeah.
No, I think that's great. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So Lynn, I really appreciate our conversation today because one of the things that I think women are really, really good at is when we find someone who is so knowledgeable and quite frankly, very personable, which is key a lot of times when we're getting information. But someone like yourself who has so much information, women are really good once we start kind of understanding what's going on, that we even crave even more information. What's the best way to move forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if I were in your situation, I would actually go to my website, happyhormonecottage.com. They can sign up for a free consultation with my Zoom session online, and it's called Hormones 101 with Lynn. They can call us at 513-444-6343 and just ask for an appointment, get into one of my free group Zoom sessions. We also have individual step 1 consultations with my patient consultants for $25 that kind of holds women accountable, right, to keep their word. And they can move forward that way. My group Zoom sessions really are a great place for women to come, share their stories, be heard and educated, and then decide the best path for them. I hope it's with me, but there's no pressure to move forward. Just educating them is what really lights me up. I think if you can teach someone something they learn, it can change behavior. And that's what we're all about, is a better quality of life for the long haul. So I would say signing up for one of my group Zoom sessions would be a really great thing to do. It costs you 60 minutes of your time and doesn't cost a dime. Yeah.
Well, and it'll be a worthwhile 60 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a lot of fun. I do make a couple of jokes here and there, and it seems to be really fun. And I hold up my little car and I love it. It's really fun.
Good.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and I want to tell everyone too, is that Lynn has a new book. And I know that you have several other books.
Yes.
But you have a new book called Lifting Up. It is stories that inspire women.
Yes.
So absolutely be sure that, you go on to the happyhormonecottage.com and you can find the books. You can find how to contact Lynn. You can also find the Hormone 101 class. The website itself is very informational.
And user-friendly, I think.
And it's very user-friendly. I agree with that.
And my book's on the online store, so.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, Lynn, I want to thank you. This has been very informational and very interesting. And I think all of us want a better quality of life. We are looking for more energy and vitality and happiness.
Yeah.
So everyone, please visit the Happy Hormone Cottage. And the website, again, is happyhormonecottage.com. And start on your path of being the best you. I kind of want to end. I started with a Joan Rivers quote, so I might as well end with a Joan Rivers quote. She once said, "Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is God's gift. That's why we call it the present."